help distribute the Lend-Lease to the communists and to the nationalist armies. And it wound up, we gave about 10% to the communists because they never did anything except talk big. And
was that your decision, or who would make those decisions?
I don't know who made the decisions, but I did the actual record keeping and mechanics of getting it done. The other,
where did you go to meet Zhou Enlai?
that's when we got up to Chongqing, when the war was over in Europe, but we were still there. We were trying to get, well, we started it when we were first in Chongqing, and then we were trying to get the communists and the nationalists together, because that was Roosevelt's big order to get, people without any experience would try to get communists together. You only get communists together when they can take over.
Right.
And so we had all the Zhou Enlai was officially the ambassador of the communist government in China to the nationalist government. He lived just 2 doors from me.
Oh.
And we had these negotiations, and never was able to get anybody other than him into a meeting. And I told you about the time that we were having serious negotiations, and Zhou Enlai had a interpreter. He spoke beautiful English and French. He was trained in French, and but he insisted on the interpreter taking everything we said and giving him time to think. But one time I said something, then he jumped out of his chair and said, "That isn't what." And when the interpreter started interpreting, that isn't what he said. And he said in perfect English what I had said, and we went on. Inflation was an extreme factor. We used to keep accurate records. You see, to go back, China was the one active country in which there was fighting going on, but which had no direct negotiation, or that isn't the word, when you have countries, usually ambassadors and so forth. Well, anyway, we used American money to pay our troops and Chinese money to pay their bills there. In other words, we would have 2 offices in each office, one in American money in dollars and another in Chinese, the only place in the world. And Washington would send money over to China and to the Chinese, let's get this, Chinese principal bank, anyway, and then get it converted. And the conversion was always in the black market.
Oh, really?
We had to go out every time in our little offices and get Chinese currency in the black market. It's the only way to deal. And
the nationalists just wouldn't, bank wouldn't...
Well, I was wrong. There was no nationalist bank that did this. There was no official exchange of the currencies in any way.
I see.
But we'd get in the black market and take the Chinese money and give it to Chiang Kai-shek. and then he would give it back to us, same money, and we would put it on our planes and send it out to various parts of the country.
Didn't you say sometime that you'd have to send whole plane loads of money?
Yes, well, in the beginning, we would meticulously count it right down to the cent, and the Chinese were always money was never off a cent on anything, but the inflation became so rapid. For instance, it went up 100% one time when I walked around the block. I went into a store to buy something, and it was too high. I went around the block, and the price had gone up 100%. At any rate, the currency wasn't worth counting. They insisted on there were very large bills and so forth, and the same denominations which we had to use. And to get any amount of money, it was just, as you said, as to get a plane load. And it got to the point where we wouldn't even count it. We would just say 4 plane loads were sent out to such and such place.
Great.
So there were all kinds of things going on. Who was the professor of political science at Northwestern?
Oh, McGovern.
McGovern, on one of his famous trips to
Tibet?
Well, he had been to Tibet different times, but this is to the communists.
Mm-hmm.
He stopped by the embassy in Chungking, and I was in a meeting there, and we got him to try to explain everything he was doing, but we had been trying for a year to get them together, and he was out there, and he was going to just do it on a short trip, but he never made a bit of impression on them. But he always talked a big story when he got back as to what he did. But my particular the operation was such that I was constantly working between the embassy and the Chinese. You see, Roosevelt sent out, who arrived out there just at the same time I did, retired general from New Mexico, famous, mother will remember.
Okay, that one I don't know.
Anyway, he was in effect the ambassador, although there was another ambassador of the State Department, and I had to work very closely. In other words, I was the fiscal in a place like that was everything except troops, approximately, and anything to deal between governments and money and supplies and so forth. And that is where Alfred Kong came in. Alfred, as you know, had born the Fijis, and when young he went to Australia and learned to be a chartered accountant.
Yeah. Okay.
And he then came to Shanghai to learn the Chinese language, which he couldn't speak.
Was it Shanghai or Hong Kong?
Hong Kong.
Okay.
Had to be at that time, Hong Kong. And he ran and caught up with the last plane leaving Hong Kong just as the Japanese were coming in. And that plane came back to the interior, and he came over and said he wanted to join the American Army, do anything he could. So he became my assistant, and the Lend-Lease records, which were, I think so, he spent about a half a day a week keeping them. But after the war was over, or about over, Pentagon sent a general and 21 second lieutenants over to keep those records. And Alfred, of course, went with us every place, and any place we went to eat, he'd go in and supervise the preparation of food. That's the reason why I had no trouble.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But in Shanghai, he got us acquainted with one of the very old Chinese families who were in house arrest from the time the Japanese came in 1937.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've told you the story how he took us out with this man to eat at one time, and then we took them out, and then finally we went to their home, a very fancy place with everything fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's about all